Alright, I got the old battery that the car came with charging right now. And as of right now, I am pulling the factory ECU. And we'll be replacing it with the Haltech Elite 2000. There she is, with an adapter harness, and we have a wideband controller for the O2 sensor. I also took out the silencer for the Holset. I topped off the power steering reservoir, topped off the oil, although now that I have an oil cooler, I'm going to crank it to get oil circulation and pressure built, and then I'm going to recheck the oil level and probably add more oil to it, as well as the coolant. Top that off as well. Did my best to bleed it, but I have a feeling I'm going to have to get her warmed up and get the water pump going to get the air bubbles out. And during the bleeding process, my reservoir actually started to fill up. It's about halfway now. Can't really see it. This has a little hole in it, so this doesn't actually build pressure, in case anyone was wondering. You can get these on Amazon. They're Evil Energy, just cheapo universal stuff. You don't gotta go get fancy. This is a kit for the R32. Actually, it's a kit for almost all the Skylines. It's for GTSTs, GTRs. I got it straight from Haltech, so there's nothing fancy about it. It is fancy, but I'm not doing anything custom. It's literally a kit for this car, so it's just a matter of swapping it out. And also, my intake air temp sensor I installed on my charge pipe right before the throttle body. There it is. And I ran the wire around over to here. I just have it random right now. And I'd like to tuck it back into that hole into the cabin. I also have the map sensor. This is just a vacuum hose running from my, I guess my intake manifold to a T. And that's going to run through the cabin to the Haltech ECU. Because it has an onboard map sensor, all it needs is a intake air temp sensor, and it can properly read the air density, since we don't have a mass airflow sensor anymore. So this is a little intimidating, looking at this pile of garbage. So here's the factory male end ECU connector. This goes to all the shit on your engine. I pulled through, but there is a hole here. I just laugh looking at it because it's like such a mess. But there's a hole that you can pull through your vac line, your intake air temp sensor wires, and your wideband O2 sensor for your Haltech. 3 things we needed to get through here. The wires for all my gauges and stuff went through the opposite hole up in that corner. This one actually was really easy to work with, unlike the driver's side. All you have to do, you can see the penetration here. It's down in there. You gotta pull some foam out. Here's my O2 sensor wire. Here's my IAT wire. And here's my vacuum line for a map sensor. All you have to do really is take your wheel off and basically undo. I just undid 2 of these plastic fender liner screws. You can pull this back and you can see, I'm not going to bother getting the light back there, but you get the idea. That is where there's a hole. The hole for your cabin is like right behind this. So I think I'm going to get to wiring in this Haltech. On to the next step. I guess the first step complete would be this adapter block. I don't know what you want to call this. It adapts basically the male end of your factory harness. And I don't know if you guys have this on your cars, but there's like a crimp, like a wire crimp here. And I have no idea what it's for. Kind of worries me. It has a yellow and green wire and a yellow and green wire on each side. I just can't imagine that being factory. No idea why that's there. Again, I don't know the history to this car. It was pretty damn stock when I got it, so Anyways, so basically adapts your male end factory harness to a female Haltech harness. And then you use the adapter loom, and per instructions, they have you repin some of these connectors. So we're gonna plug these in there, and then these guys are gonna go to the actual Haltech ECU. All right, bear with me. So this is the O2 sensor right there out of our exhaust pipe. It comes through here and it goes directly into our controller, which is right here. This is the O2 sensor wire. From there we have this wire. It comes out and it goes into this connection here. Splits off. One goes directly into your Haltech sensor or ECU, and then you have these wires here. And apparently you need to power the controller. The controller isn't powered by the ECU, so that's what these wires are for. So you got to find somewhere on the car. I'll probably go with like the radio power, and then I'll just ground it somewhere properly. This is just very confusing. And the reason I have one open, as far as my understanding goes, is that this would be for another wideband sensor. If I had a V8 and I wanted 2 sensors, or if I had 2 turbos, whatever. I don't have that. I have 1 sensor, so I'm assuming that one stays open. The way it's drawn here doesn't make any sense, because the device, being the O2 sensor, goes into the controller not through either of those 2 ports, but it's actually hardwired into the side. So that's where it's confusing. These instructions aren't actually exact with what you have down there. I'm gonna try mounting this stuff so it looks prettier, and then I'll get this intake air temp sensor wired in to the pins. This is so much. Look at this mess. I'm gonna take a picture and put it on Instagram. This is this is ridiculous. This is all new to me, so we'll see how it goes. Another thing I really don't tell you the instructions is, I guess, how to pin, crimp, wire in to the connector your air intake sensor. I mean, the instructions they give you are pretty vague. It tells you basically how to run the wires up into the auxiliary connector, which is this guy right here. But actually putting this, I don't know, a pin, I don't know what you'd call these. Putting these on the wire is pretty difficult. This is a tools kit you can buy. This is a crimping kit, pin out kit, whatever. You can get from Haltech, but it does the job for crimping these guys to the end of your wires. And doing it without that tool makes it look pretty ugly. So as you can see, I have a lot of failed attempts here until I realized that there was a tool for it. Bought the right tool for the job. I got my little pigtails here for my air intake sensor. Mounting this in a clean fashion will be difficult, especially since these wires are so thick. And I'm not quite done yet. We have the intake air temp sensor, the boost line, vacuum line, and we have the wideband controller. All ran through the hole. They're kind of all tucked up here, including the stock ECU adapter that would adapt your loom to 3624 pin for your Haltech. I'm not sure where to mount this. I feel like up against here would be nice. You don't want it to be in the way of your glove box though when that opens. And then we have our controller that we still haven't really tucked these wires around. So a lot of extra wire. And we still have the power and ground. And these should be placed or wired to a 12 volt switched power source. So like, I was thinking maybe the radio power or like the cigarette lighter power. Anything that gets power after you turn the key on. And yeah, I was just messing with my gauges. I'll fix those. So I'm gonna leave it like this for now until the car is tuned and I don't have any need to access this stuff. But for now, I'm not sure what I'm gonna have to access in case I need to rewire something. So leaving it semi-exposed and ready to be messed with is probably the smartest decision for me right now. Everything's kind of tucked up and zip tied. I ran the power and ground for the wideband controller up to the radio, everything is connected and ready to go. ECU wise, per instructions, to my knowledge, I should say. I also want to show you guys, I don't think I showed you guys the gauges light up yet, so I have the old original battery that the car was imported with here. It probably has less than 12 volts on it, but I just need something with just enough. The light is on, so the car has power. I'm not sure how many volts are there. We're going to find out when I flip the ignition on. All right, so here's your dash lights. All right, so volts are pretty low and dropping. Obviously the air fuel isn't going to work because the car isn't running. No boost. Oil temp gauge reading 49 degrees. Zero oil pressure because the car isn't running. It is just below 60 degrees in here. Probably close to like 55 degrees Fahrenheit in this garage. So it makes sense that the oil is reading 49 degrees. So it's good to know that the gauges are all working. It's pretty dope. And I'll walk over here. This is just a test battery. I'm gonna replace this with a good battery. Don't worry about that. Come on over here. It is saying the power is off on the ECU because just the accessories are on. Let me sit down real quick. When I turn the key, one more click, I'm not going to crank it. Fuel pump turned on. Volts definitely dropped because, well, the battery is kind of old and crappy. ECU is reading power. And I don't know if you heard the fuel pump. Let's walk around to the driver's side. That was just one cycle. Looks like fuel pressure is still low. But when it cycled, it actually sounded like the fuel filter or the fuel pump was dying because it's sub 12 volts. I could probably cycle it a few more times to get that up. I don't think that's gonna help us though. I'm gonna turn the gauges off. See, here's my switch for my gauges. Ready, and whoop, off. Looks like we can't get above 20 psi, it seems. I can hear the fuel circulating through this rail, and no fuel leaks. So we just need a new battery. It just sounds bad. But anyways, I just wanted to test basically the electrical. Do I have power to all my gauges still? Does the ECU have power? And we could check that off as yes, we do. And we're gonna get ourselves a better battery. I have been charging this battery just for this exact test, but this will not be the battery I will be running the car with. Like I said, ECU is done, so I'm gonna leave it for now until I am happy with how the car is running. So that way I don't have to worry about undigging it up if I were to tuck everything in real nice and tidy. I don't want to have to undo that in case something's wrong. So we're gonna get the car operational. Wheels got to go back on. Got to clean up my mess. Literally, oh my god, such a mess. And then one day we'll work on the Subaru, back to our roots. But until then, let's get this GTST running right. Let's do it justice. I'm gonna look at the engine bay real quick one last time. I think I'm gonna call it quits for the night. It is February. It is freaking cold. Been running my heat this entire time. I'm trying not to waste it. I have no idea about intake leaks or exhaust leaks yet because I haven't turned the car on yet. Don't know about the ignition. R35 GTR coil packs. Have no idea if that'll work yet or not. 1000cc injectors. Who knows if they're passing or not. Because we can't get this up above 20 psi, which I highly suspect is because the battery can't even get to 12 volts because it's dying. So much to go over with this car. So much. Probably throw headlights on to make it road legal and then get it tuned right. But until then, I'd like to be able to turn the key and get her to fire up. Just got to scrounge up a laptop and get her ready. snowblower.